I never imagined I'd become the kind of man who sits alone in a darkened car at midnight, staring at a single window while the engine slowly cools beneath him. What are you supposed to do when the person you built your entire life around starts to feel like a stranger living under the same roof? The first time I noticed her Lexus parked on that quiet, tree-lined street in Lincoln Park, I brushed it off. Maybe it was work-related. A client meeting, perhaps. The second time, about a week later, something inside me tightened. That uneasy feeling in my stomach hardened into something cold and heavy. But this was the third time that her car sat beneath a weak street lamp outside his brownstone dot at that moment. There was no more denying it. This wasn't chance. This wasn't coincidence. This was a pattern. This was deliberate. Sitting there, catching the faint trace of her perfume lingering in the passenger seat, I realized something I wasn't ready to admit out loud, that the life I believed in was already over. I just hadn't faced it yet. If you truly enjoy stories like this, consider subscribing to the channel. Let us know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. It's always incredible to see how far these stories travel. Our life had all the markings of perfection. We owned a condo with a view over Millennium Park. We spent weekends escaping to Lake Geneva. We shared jokes that no one else could understand. At least, that's what I believed. Sarah and I were supposed to be a team for 10 years. She was the center of my world, the sun everything revolved around. But over time, that light had started to fade so gradually that I almost didn't notice. It began with longer hours at work. Her phone was always tilted away from me. Conversations would stop the moment I entered the room. Then there was Mark, a new partner at her law firm. She spoke about him often and always with a little too much admiration. He's brilliant, she'd say, a real shark in the courtroom. I didn't question it. I trusted her. That was my mistake. The space between us widened until it felt impossible to cross. She grew distant, critical. Nothing I did seemed right anymore. My jokes stopped being funny. My restaurant choices were always wrong. She looked at me differently, like I was something she used to care about, but no longer did. Almost like a project she'd abandoned. The villains of this story, Sarah and Mark, carried themselves with the confidence of people who believe they're untouchable, smarter than everyone else. They hid their affair behind late nights at the office, work events, and legal deadlines. They thought they were careful. They thought they were safe. They had no idea I was sitting in my car on North Orchard Street, watching his apartment. The dashboard clock read 12:17 a.m. I stayed there until the lights finally went out. That was the night something inside me broke. I drove home through empty Chicago streets, the city lights smearing through tears I didn't even realize were falling. When I stepped into our spotless, silent apartment, it felt like a monument to a lie. Her photo sat on the mantel smiling, perfect, and something inside me snapped. The anger was overwhelming, pure, absolute. It nearly dropped me to my knees. That was the moment everything changed. The loyal husband, the man who loved her without question, ceased to exist. What remained was someone else entirely, someone with nothing left to lose, someone with one clear objective: find the truth. The next morning, I played my role perfectly. I made her coffee the same way I always did. I asked about her late night. Brutal. She replied casually, eyes fixed on her phone. We're trying to close the Henderson deal. The ease of her lie was astonishing. That was the beginning of my new life. At home, I became invisible, quiet, observant. But behind the scenes, I was planning, strategizing, preparing for war. I found an old iPad she had forgotten in a drawer. It was still connected to her message account. Everything was there. Every message, every detail, a complete timeline of their affair. Hotel bookings in the Gold Coast, private jokes, some of them about me. Plans for a future they were building together, a future that required the destruction of our marriage. I captured everything, screenshot after screenshot. My hands trembled, not from heartbreak, but from something colder, more calculated. I hired one of the top divorce attorneys in Chicago, a woman known for being relentless. Together, we began setting everything in motion. I transferred our joint savings into an account controlled by my lawyer. I kept records of every expense, every gift, every spa visit, every dollar she spent while betraying me. I was building a case designed to destroy her legally. But the law wasn't enough. That wouldn't satisfy me. I wanted her to experience what I had felt. Not privately, publicly. 2 months later, the opportunity arrived at the firm's annual awards dinner at the Drake Hotel. The biggest night of her career. She was being honored. Mark would be there. So would her colleagues, her family, everyone who admired her, everyone who believed she was flawless. She stood on stage, illuminated by the spotlight, delivering her speech. She thanked her team, her mentors, and then me. And to my husband, she said, her voice filled with carefully crafted emotion, whose constant support has been my foundation. The room erupted into applause. People stood. For a moment, she believed I was one of them. Instead, I walked toward the front. I picked up the second microphone. I agree, I said, my voice cutting through the room as silence fell. Her foundation, the one she stood on while she was sleeping with Mark. The reaction was immediate. A sharp, collective gasp. The air seemed to vanish from the room. Behind her, the large screen lit up. I displayed everything: messages, reservations, conversations, proof. Undeniable. Sarah single quotes S expression shattered. The color drained from her face as her carefully constructed image collapsed. Mark looked trapped like an animal with nowhere to run. The room turned into a storm of whispers, shock, and judgment. In a single moment, it was over. Her reputation, her career, her image. Gone. She fled the stage, no longer admired, only exposed. I didn't stay. I didn't watch what came next. I stepped out into the cold Chicago night and kept walking. There was no sense of victory. No satisfaction. Just an emptiness so deep it swallowed everything else. I had won. I had done exactly what I set out to do. But in the end, all I had really done was destroy something that was already broken. And now I stand alone in what's left behind. The end.